Hi, I'm Bill Caskey, author of Same Game, New Rules and co-host of the Advanced Selling Podcast. And in this video today, we're going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics, which is training a sales team. That's what we do here at Caskey. Myself, Brian Neal, Brooke Green, and others. We focus on how to develop the skills of sales teams all over the world. A question we typically get is, well, how do you do that? And what do you look for? And what are some tips that I can use to get ready for you guys to come in or another organization to come in? So the reason for this video is to give you some best practices, start with 5 things you can do to get ready, and talk about 5 things you can do to get results. Again, the purpose of this is not to pitch you on our services. It may be that after you see this, you say, I kind of like that style, but it may be that you don't and you want to go somewhere else, and that's totally okay. This is really just to help educate you. There's 3 things that you should be looking at when you get ready to bring in a training vendor or a person to coach your people. Number 1 is the coach themselves. How does that coach have rapport with my people? Does the coach know not just how to sell, but does he or she know how to train people on how to sell? Because there's a lot of people floating around out there who are very good salespeople who decide, okay, I'm going to go start training, and they really don't understand human dynamics and change and how to get behavior change and how to get thought change, which we feel like we're pretty good at. So the third thing is, or the second thing is content. What are you going to coach my people on? What's the overall selling strategy? What's the language that you're going to teach my people? What are the main precepts and concepts that you're going to teach to help my people get the right mindset so they can change their behavior, so they can change their results? But the third thing is what we're going to talk about today, and that's the context of it all. So it's all things around the coach and the content. It's how the program is designed. It's how it's delivered. It's what do you do prior to the program to make sure you get the most out of your investment. Because not only are you investing money, which we think it's a very good investment, but of course we would say so, you're also investing the time of your people, taking them out of the field or bringing them out of the client interaction. So you'd better make sure that the hours or days or weeks that you spend training your team really has high-level impact. So let's take a look at these 5. Number 1, under the Get Ready column, and I've designed these as question marks and dollar signs, although theoretically you could probably put dollar signs on all of them. Number 1 is here to there. Get very clear on where are you now as a company and as a sales team, and where would you like to get? If there's no vision, or if there's no clear picture about where you're going and how you're going to get from here to there, it's going to be very difficult for us to come in and give you meaningful content. Really, it's going to be difficult for any training organization, although sometimes people don't really care about that. They just want the training dollars. We think it's important to pause for just a moment. We're not talking about months. We're talking about an hour or so and say, where are we now and where are we going as a company? The second thing is, we think it's important to do 2 assessments. One assessment is a qualitative assessment. Qualitative assessment is when you and your team, you as the leader, look at your people and say, what do they really need? Where do they get stuck? Where are some potential growth areas for them that will really help take their business to the next level and take them to the next level? Our belief is there's always a next level. I don't care how much money you make, how successful you are. The world is changing so rapidly, you've got to keep reinventing yourself. The second is the quantitative. The quantitative is more the numbers and the measurements and what are your closing percentages right now? How many new appointments do your people have each week? What should they have? What's the expectation? These are all the metrics of this. And we think it's important to start off with, because one of the things later is going to be measure results. We think it's important to start off with some key performance indicators. What are the metrics? Now, that's not the only thing. The other is the qualitative, which is where are my people getting in trouble. But those 2 things are really good assessments. Number 3, we find people miss this a lot. Simply ask your team. Ask your people, what would you like to accomplish to get to your next income level? Let's just say that your people are generating enough business to earn them $100,000 a year. What's the next level for them? Is it 120? Is it 150? Is it 700? There's always a next level. You have to keep inspiring your people to grow to that next level. So the question is, what skills do your people need in order to do that? It could be things like video skills. It could be writing skills. It could be communication skills. It could be presentation skills, speaking skills. There's a lot of things out there that you can ask your team about, and they will tell you exactly what they need. 4th, identify some problems. We think it's important to, and we say 12 here. It doesn't have to be 12. It can be 5, 7, 10. but 12 is a nice round number of problems your people have. So if you have 100 people in your sales force and you send out a survey to them and say, what do you want help with? Where do you need personal development or professional development? They will probably come back with some items that are themed around 12 different things. Things like, I'm not calling on the right person, or I feel like I get stuck midway through the sales process, or I'm not sure we're positioned right up front, or how do I handle the price objection when it comes late in the sales cycle? Find out what the problems are that your people have and design curriculum around those. And the fifth thing, clarity and simplicity. What I mean by that is be very clear up front about what you want the training to do for you, what kind of developmental skills you think your people need, and decide to give them the story clearly and simply. If it becomes too cumbersome and too hard to understand and too overwhelming, and you want to try to accomplish 17 things in the first 30 days, it's not going to work. People are going to shut you down. So we think the clearer you can be to your team about why you're engaging in this training, and the simpler you can make the effort, the better. Let's move now to getting results, since that's what we all type A's want. We want better results in the market. Number one, you've got to have the right vendor. You've got to have a vendor training vendor, whether it's a local coach or somebody like us that does work nationally and globally. You've got to make sure that your team has rapport with them, that the team trusts the person in the front of the room or on the webinar or on the video. Not only should they trust them and believe them, they should be inspired by them. We've all sat in probably too many training rooms and training days where we're not inspired by the trainer. The trainer reads a PowerPoint or a keynote slide. Don't hire a trainer that does that. Make sure you have the right vendor. Make sure the vendor inspires the people, adds a little fun, adds a little entertainment value to it. To sit in a room for 8 hours today, and when you're not used to that, can be very painful. No learning will take place if the vendor is not creating some engagement, interaction, and fun. Number two, we think it's always important to start with some kind of a kickoff. You know, it's kind of the natural default today is, well, let's just do webinar training. Let's just do, that way we don't have to bring our people in. Let's just do telephone work. We like that. We like direct video for training. We like webinars. But sometimes you have to kick things off. You have to try things out. You have to get in the same room so that the people on your team and the trainer, the coach, can have some chance for rapport, get to know each other a little bit, and insist that your vendor do that. Insist that your vendor just doesn't waltz in at 8:30, do his program, and waltz out at noon when he's done. Make sure he or she spends time with your people. That's how that rapport is going to happen. Third thing, frequent and short. What we're talking about here is how often the events happen, the training events, whether it's a webinar, a phone call, a face-to-face. We like the idea of frequent trainings. We think it's much better to do once a week or once every 2 weeks for 15 to 30 minutes than it is once a year for 24 hours or 3 days. We just don't think that's how adults learn. If you have 100 people in your sales force and they're out calling on, let's just say 20 people per month, that's 100 times 20, that's 20,000 situations or circumstances that you have. Surely there's a few of those that might cause trouble, that might be you can learn something from those. When you have ongoing, constant engagement with your trainer, there's more likelihood you're going to learn something from them, because most learning for adults happens when they can apply something they've learned to an actual prospect or client connection. Fourth, digital archive. What this means is, rather than you trying to think back to a training that you had 7 years ago or even a year ago, and gosh, the trainer said something about how do I handle it when my customer has a price objection in the 11th hour, and you don't have a manual to research or to foot to or anything. We think it's important you have a digital archive. So you can go into the digital archive and it's all tagged appropriately, so you can put in, how do I handle a price objection late in the selling cycle, or how do I call on the CEO, or what question should I ask the CEO? That should all be archivable digitally for you so you can search on it. It's got to be searched on. We think it's important that all that gets put on the web behind a firewall, so that when your managers are out with your people and there's a situation, you can go right there, click on it, and find out videos come up and audios and reports and articles, so you have specific answers to your questions. Don't fumble through manuals anymore. Manuals are not the way of the future. Sometimes we give them out, but the fact is that digital archives have more impact. And the fifth thing is measure. You've already talked here about the quantitative assessment and what you want to measure and what some of the key performance indicators are. Measure it. Take 6 months, do your training with your vendor or on your own, and then measure how are you coming along with those key performance indicators. One key performance indicator we like is closing percentage. Most of the time, the closing percentage in American business today is below 10%. 10%. That means 90% of the time we are chasing business that's never going to happen. And then we run around also and say, well, how do I manage my time better? Well, you manage your time better by not quoting people who are not going to buy and by being able to distinguish one group from the other. So make sure you measure what you already quantitatively put up there. It's very important. I hope this has helped. If you want to talk to one of our people about training your team, just how much it costs and what the engagement looks like and what the framework and what you're trying to accomplish, we'd love to take your call. But again, that wasn't the purpose of this. The purpose of this is just to make you a more sophisticated buyer of training to help your people develop their skills. See you next time. Bye.